$40. That's what a single bag of premium grass seed costs you now, and most of it is about to die before it ever puts down a root. Picture it. It's a mild Saturday morning in spring. The frost is gone. You're standing on your back lawn with a fresh bag in your hands, ready to fix those thin, tired patches that have nagged you all winter. You scatter the seed across the bare spots, you feel good about it, you water it, and you wait, and nothing happens. Or worse, a few weak blades poke up, go yellow, and shrivel within 2 weeks. Here's the thing, nobody tells you in the garden aisle, the friendly associate who sold you that $40 bag never mentioned that the way you're about to use it is the single fastest way to waste it. The lawn care industry sells you seed and fertilizer as if scattering equals growing. It doesn't. And that's why you're standing in the same spot, same patchy lawn, every single spring, doing the exact same thing and getting the exact same disappointment. Let me be blunt. Most people overseed completely wrong. They throw the seeds straight onto hard ground, they never touch the thatch underneath, and they water once and walk away. Then they wonder why the birds got fed and the lawn didn't. Nothing changes year after year, and the bare patches just keep coming back wider than before. So here's what I'm going to show you. 2 halves. First, how to overseed so the seed actually grips the soil and germinates instead of rotting or blowing away. Second, the timing and feeding mistakes that quietly kill new grass even when you do the seeding part right. And then at the end, there's one final step. The entire reason this video exists, the thing that stops both these problems from ever coming back. I'm not going to name it yet. Stay with me, because once you see it, you'll never overseed the old way again. But let me ask you something first, and be honest. You believe that more seed equals more grass, don't you? That if you pour it on thick, you'll get a thick lawn. Hold on to that thought, because it's about to cost you. Part 1 is the problem almost everyone gets wrong, and it's the most emotional one. The bare and thinning patches, because that's the part you stare at every single day. This matters first because no clever feeding or watering trick can save seed that never made contact with soil in the first place. So here's what you instinctively do. You grab a handful, you fling it over the thin spot, maybe you're generous and double it because thicker has to be better, and you give the ground a quick soak. It feels productive. It feels like you've done the job, and I get it. Scattering seed is satisfying. It looks like progress. But here's what's actually happening beneath your feet. Grass seed needs firm, direct contact with bare soil to germinate. It needs moisture wrapped around it for a continuous period, and it needs to sit in the top quarter inch of earth, no deeper and no shallower. When you throw seed onto a hard, compacted surface or on top of a dense layer of dead grass and roots called thatch, the seed just sits there, exposed. The sun dries it out between waterings. The birds eat a good share of it, and I'm not exaggerating. On an open lawn, birds will take 20 to 30% of surface seed within the first few days, and the seed that survives germinates with its tiny root dangling in the air instead of gripping the soil, so it dries up and dies. Here's the reframe that flips everything. You don't have a seed problem. You have a contact problem. Throwing more seed onto bad ground just feeds more birds. So let's do it right, from the simplest fix to the most thorough. The first thing, before any seed touches the ground, mow your existing lawn shorter than usual, down to about 1.5 inches, and bag the clippings. Short grass lets light and seed reach the soil instead of getting caught in the canopy. Next, and this is the step, 90% of people skip, rake the area hard with a metal garden rake, or for a bigger lawn, run a dethatching rake or a powered scarifier over it. You want to tear out that brown, spongy layer of dead material and scratch the soil surface until you can see actual dirt. That scratching creates thousands of little grooves, and every groove is a pocket where a seed can lodge, hold moisture, and root. On a lawn the size of a typical back garden, say around 1,000 square feet, this takes you maybe 40 minutes of real effort, and it is the single most important 40 minutes of the whole job. Now, spread your seed, and here's a real number to anchor it. For most cool season grasses like a fescue or ryegrass blend, you want around 4 to 6 pounds of seed per 1,000 square feet when you're overseeding into existing turf. Not the whole bag dumped on one patch. Even coverage. Use a simple handheld spreader if you've got one. It's about $15 because your hand always throws it uneven and you end up with clumps in one spot and nothing in the next. After the seed is down, this is the move that separates the people who get a thick lawn from the people who don't. Lightly rake again so the seed drops into those grooves, then walk over it or roll it so the seed is pressed into firm contact with the soil. That gentle pressing is what gives the root something to push against. Then top it with a thin 1/4-inch layer of screened compost or fine topsoil, just enough to hide most of the seed from the birds and hold moisture against it. That thin blanket is worth more than another whole bag of seed. Understand what's at stake if you skip this. Get the contact wrong and you don't just lose the $40 bag. You lose the entire spring window. You'll reseed in 3 weeks when nothing comes up, then again in summer when it's too hot, and by autumn, that bare patch is hard-packed dirt that turns to mud every time it rains, the exact spot that floods by your back door. One quick prevention tip that costs you nothing: never seed onto bone-dry, rock-hard ground. Water the area lightly the day before you rake, because slightly moist soil breaks open under the rake and gives you those grooves where dry soil just turns to dust and blows away. And look, if this is exactly the kind of thing nobody tells you in the garden aisle, let me point you to something that goes even deeper than what we can cover in a single video. I put together a complete written guide, actually a set of 3, the Amish Lawn Guide, the Amish Soil Guide, and the Complete Amish Yard Field Edition that walks you through every layer of this, from soil biology to seasonal overseeding schedules, in the kind of detail that changes how you see your lawn permanently. It's the approach rooted in old Amish land-keeping methods that have been producing dense, self-sustaining turf for generations without expensive products or guesswork. All 3 are available together for $97, and you'll find the link in the description below. If you're serious about never standing over a failing patch again, that's where you go next. Now let's keep going, because the seeding is only half the battle. Part 2 is a completely different problem, and it catches people who did the seeding perfectly, so don't tune out thinking you've got it covered. This is about timing and feeding, and the thesis is simple. Most people seed at the wrong temperature and feed at the wrong moment, and that single combination kills more new lawns than drought ever will. Here's the catastrophic mistake, the one that takes weeks to reveal itself and a full season to recover from. People watch the calendar instead of the soil. They see the first warm, sunny weekend in early spring, they get the itch, and they seed, but air temperature lies to you. What matters to a seed is soil temperature, measured a couple of inches down, and cool season grass seed needs soil consistently between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit to germinate reliably. Seed too early, into cold soil sitting at 40 degrees, and that seed just rots in place, swollen with water, feeding fungus instead of sprouting. You won't see the damage for 3 weeks, and by then your window's half gone. Get a cheap soil thermometer, about $10, push it 2 inches into the ground in the morning for a few days, and wait until you're holding 55 degrees steady before you sow a single seed. That $10 tool saves you a whole wasted bag. Now the feeding. And let me walk you through this from the cheapest, simplest approach up to what a professional would actually reach for. Method 1, the cheapest thing you can do is to feed nothing high in nitrogen at seeding time and instead choose a starter fertilizer that's high in phosphorus, the middle number on the bag. Here's the mechanism. Phosphorus drives root development, and a brand new seedling's entire survival depends on getting roots down fast before the weather turns. A starter feed around the ratio of 10-20, 10 tells you it's loaded with that root-building phosphorus. A bag covers a typical lawn for around $18 to $25, and you apply it lightly the same day you seed, raked into that top layer of soil so it sits right where the new roots will reach. Most people grab the regular green-up lawn food they already have in the shed, but actually that high nitrogen feed forces fast top growth on a seedling that has no roots to support it, and it burns the tender new blades. More nitrogen, weaker grass. Remember that. Method 2, a step up, is to manage water like a professional instead of like a homeowner, because watering is feeding when it comes to new seed. Most people water once a day, deeply, the way you're told to water an established lawn. That's exactly wrong for seed. New seed in that top quarter-inch of soil dries out in hours on a breezy spring day, and the moment it dries, after it's started to germinate, it dies. No second chance. So for the first 2 to 3 weeks, you water lightly and often, 2 or 3 short bursts a day, just enough to keep the surface dark and damp, never soaked in pooling. The mechanical reason is simple. Germination is a one-way door. Once a seed imbibes water and cracks open, it must stay moist continuously, or that fragile root tip shrivels. Keep that surface damp for 14 to 21 days, and you'll watch a green haze appear, then thicken, then fill. Once the new grass is about 2 inches tall, you flip it back to deep and infrequent watering, which trains the roots to chase moisture downward and makes the lawn drought tough for summer. Method 3, the one a pro reaches for on a tough, thin, struggling lawn, is to fix the soil itself before and during seeding, because seed only performs as well as the ground it sits in. 2 parts to it. First, a core aeration. You either rent a powered core aerator for around $70 for a half day, or hire it done, and it pulls thousands of small plugs of soil out of the ground, relieving the compaction that's been strangling your roots and choking out air and water. Compacted soil is the silent killer behind most thin lawns, especially clay-heavy ground that's been walked on and mown for years. The holes left behind are perfect seed pockets, deep enough to hold moisture and shaded from the birds. You aerate first, then overseed straight into it, and the seed-to-soil contact is the best you'll ever get. Second, after seeding, top dress with that thin layer of quality compost across the whole area, around a quarter-inch deep, because compost feeds the soil biology, holds water like a sponge, and gives every seed a rich, moist bed. A pro doesn't just grow grass, he builds the soil that grows the grass. That's the difference between a lawn that looks good for a month and one that gets thicker every single year. So now you've got the seeding right and the timing and feeding right, which brings us to the part I promised at the very start, the reason this whole video exists. Part 3, prevention. Here it is. The single step that stops both the bare patches and the failed germination from ever coming back, and almost nobody does it. Overseed on a schedule every single autumn before the problem ever appears, not as a panic repair in spring. I want to be very clear. This is the master move. Most people only overseed when the lawn already looks terrible, but actually the strongest lawns are the ones reseeded a little every year while they still look fine, because a lawn is not a permanent thing. It's a population, and grass plants age, thin, and die on a natural cycle whether you notice or not. The mechanism is straightforward. By dropping a light rate of fresh seed, around 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, into the lawn each autumn when the soil is still warm from summer but the air is cooling and the weeds have stopped competing, you constantly replace the old dying plants with young, vigorous ones before a bare patch can ever open up. The tool is nothing fancy. The same handheld or push spreader you already used, and you simply mow short, rake lightly, spread the seed, and let the autumn rains do most of your watering for free. Do this and you'll save yourself that $40 emergency bag, the wasted spring weekends, and the repeated reseeding. Easily $100 and 3 or 4 weekends of frustration every single year. So which approach is for you? If you've got a small flat lawn and a couple of nagging bare spots, you don't need to rent anything. Just the rake, a $15 spreader, a bag of seed, and a thin layer of compost will fix you right up. If your lawn is medium-sized and gets a lot of foot traffic from kids or a dog, and the soil feels hard underfoot, the core aeration plus overseed is your method once every autumn, and it'll transform the place within 2 seasons. And if your lawn is large, patchy, and on heavy clay that's been neglected for years, go the full professional route, aerate, overseed with a quality starter feed, top dress with compost, and water, light, and often, and you'll bring back ground you thought was dead for good. Now, here's the new problem you're about to run straight into, because success creates it. Once your overseeding works and that lush new grass comes thundering in, you're going to face the question that trips up everyone at this stage: when and how to mow it without ripping the young seedlings clean out of the ground. Mow too early or with a dull blade, and you'll tear out 3 weeks of work in 10 minutes. If that's the spot you know you'll be standing in, drop me a comment with the single word mowing, and I'll know exactly what to make for you next. The next video shows precisely when that first cut should happen, how short to go, and the one blade trick that keeps new grass anchored. Subscribe so it lands in front of you the moment it's out, because getting the seed up is only worth it if you don't undo it on the first mow. Let me leave you with the truth that ties all of this together, because I don't want you walking away with just a list of steps. The reason your lawn has frustrated you spring after spring isn't the seed, isn't the brand, isn't your soil being hopeless. It's that you've been treating overseeding as an emergency repair instead of a habit, scattering seed onto ground that was never prepared to receive it, at a temperature that was never right, then feeding it the one thing that burns it. Flip those three things and everything changes. Prepare the contact, watch the soil temperature, not the calendar, feed the roots, not the leaves, and reseed a little every year before the bare patches ever show. That's it. That's the whole game. Think back to that mild Saturday morning, the $40 bag in your hands. The old version of you scatters it, waters once, and walks away to watch it fail again. The new version mows short, rakes until he sees soil, checks that the ground is holding 55 degrees, spreads 4 to 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet, presses it in, blankets it with a 1/4 inch of compost, and keeps that surface damp for 3 weeks straight. One of those men is standing in the exact same patchy spot next spring. The other is mowing a lawn so thick the neighbors start asking what he did. The seed costs the same for both of them. The only difference is the contact, the timing, and the habit. And here's the part that should genuinely excite you. None of this requires special talent or a green thumb you weren't born with. It requires knowing the mechanism, which you now do. The grass wants to grow. It is biologically programmed to grow. Your only job is to stop accidentally getting in its way, to give the seed-firm soil to grip, steady moisture to drink, warm enough ground to wake up in, and roots fed before the leaves. Do that, and growth is not a hope, it's a near certainty. That's the quiet confidence of working with the biology instead of against it. So this week, before you do anything else, go push your finger into the soil where the worst patch is. Feel whether it's hard as a road or soft enough to crumble. Pull back the dead grass and see if there's bare dirt underneath or a spongy brown mat choking everything out. That 5-minute inspection tells you whether you need a simple rake and seed or the full aeration treatment, and it costs you nothing but a moment on your knees. Then mark your calendar for early autumn, set a reminder, and commit to the once-a-year light overseed that keeps a bare patch from ever opening again. That single recurring habit is what separates a lawn that fights you forever from a lawn that just quietly gets better on its own. Remember the question I asked you at the start, whether more seed means more grass? Now you know the answer. It never did. Contact means more grass. Timing means more grass. A thin layer of compost and a damp surface mean more grass. The seed was never the bottleneck, and once you stop believing it was, you stop wasting money on the symptom and start fixing the cause. That's the shift that finally ends the yearly disappointment. Get the seeding contact right today, watch the soil temperature this spring, feed the roots and not the leaves, and reseed lightly every autumn so the problem never returns. And don't forget, when that thick new grass comes in and you're standing there wondering when it's safe to take the mower to it, type the word mowing in the comments, and subscribe so the next video reaches you before you make that first cut. Your lawn has been waiting for you to stop fighting it. Starting this weekend, give it what it's quietly been asking for and watch the bare patches close for good. I'm so glad you stayed with me to the end. Inside the Amish Garden Circle, I take this very lesson further, picking up right where we just stopped. You can ask me your own question, and I'll answer you myself. A real person, never a machine. You truly belong here with us. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime with one click. Now that you've got that fresh grass coming in, let's make sure you keep it green and healthy. In the next video, I'll show you the simple watering changes that make all the difference. It's starting right here.